with Cyberbug 2020, I think it's one of these with certain gamers and certain types of gamers. It's one of these things where, as definitely throughout this past year, past couple of years, and you've seen some of these AAA studios and certainly the route that they've been going with monetization. And some people would say that it's in a bad spot. I actually don't. I don't agree, at least to the extent that how they dramatize it. Let's say that. I can see some agreement, but there's certainly some disagreement there as well. But particularly with this game, or with CD Projekt Red and the company, it was one of the last standing companies that people looked at, certain gamers looked at as if they would never do what those companies did. Now, some of that is based on the type of game that they've made. I've made a video talking about this months before this game was even, coming out. I talked about how they have benefited from really making the type of games that they've made, namely what you know them for is Glitcher, excuse me. And with Glitcher 3, definitely that was like the game of the generation for a lot of people, despite it having some problems, and we're going to come back to those. And I think a lot of folks will like, look, this company is different. I mean, they make, again, for the most part, when you see those modern monetization problems, or where people put out these games and they have that monetization slapped on top of it, it's not anything that Cyberpunk or CD Projekt Red wouldn't do. It's that they've benefited from making that type of game with those types of RPGs that really don't have a necessity for that type of modern monetization. And this is why when the Cyberpunk Online, they already announced that game's going to have microtransactions in it. So you'll have to retire that argument as well. But just from a business practice standpoint, being consumer friendly, a lot of people see CD Projekt Red as the company that just would not do what the other folks did. And I never saw them as different from those other AAA companies. I think y'all lulled yourselves into it, and their marketing has done a fantastic job of really perpetuating this idea as if they are different. They would even go online, like on their Twitter, and take shots at other companies saying, we leave the greed to the other companies and such. Okay, bet. Now Cyberpunk 2020 gets released, and it's obviously having some problems. Optimization problems on PC, but specifically, more directly, a lot of the problems, and most of the problems, are having to be obviously on those consoles. I've talked about the PlayStation 5 and how many times that damn thing has crashed. You've seen my streams. It's crashed an insane amount of times. It's ridiculous. And a lot of folks are having, like, for base Xbox and base PlayStation, they're having issues of frame drops and stuff like that. It doesn't look as good and as promising. And CD Projekt Red had to come out and already say that, okay, yeah, we kind of didn't show you guys what this thing looked like on base console, and we should have been more transparent about that. And that's the shoulda, coulda, woulda. And the fact that people would dare to even give them credit for apologizing is hilarious, considering that you want to talk about shady practices, actually literally lying. I would say that when you say, well, it runs surprisingly well on the consoles, no, it does not. And we found that to be, and they had to acknowledge that it does not run that well. And they acknowledge it in this call that we're going to look at here in a little bit from CD Projekt Red, this investor call that happened yesterday, or the day before I shot this video. And when we talk about shady business practices, remember, I need y'all to understand and keep in mind what folks say about those, the EAs, the Activisions, the of the world, the Bethesda. Keep that in mind. But here in the call, we released Cyberpunk 2077 4 days ago on December 10th. The game has had a strong opening, and we've got positive feedback from players enjoying it on stronger machines, PC and next gen consoles, and Stadia. Yeah, maybe Stadia, maybe even Xbox. Well, no, they're having those issues. Just PlayStation 5 is certainly having some issues. But the initial feedback from those playing on the oldest last gen consoles is way below our expectations. Is it? And remember, he just says that he lies here in a little bit as well. CD Projekt Red is a team that puts their efforts and hearts in delivering amazing games. So how was it even possible that this has come to this? After 3 delays, we as the management board were too focused on releasing the game. We underestimated the scale and complexity of the issues. We ignored, keep in mind, that's what he said. We ignored the signals about the need for additional time to refine the game on base last gen consoles. So there were signals and they just blatantly said, ship it out. Now keep in mind that this is what a lot of y'all say when it comes to other games, particularly these modern AAA studios, and what they do when they put the games out that are unfinished, unpolished, and they just want to make that buck. And they'll worry about everything else after the fact. So good luck. You'll maybe have a working product months from the release. They essentially did the same damn thing that you could, specifically with games with microtransactions. They did the same thing and admitted it, where they saw that the damn thing had needed some help and they completely ignored it. It was the wrong approach and against our business philosophy. All that sounds good, man. All of it sounds good. And hopefully those stragglers that were still holding on or clinging to these ideas, hopefully they see now that this company is not all what it's cracked to be. On top of that, during the campaign, we showed the game mostly on PCs. So it was misleading for those that have been playing it on base, which is what a lot of the gripes for the guys that are on base consoles. But yeah, that, and because the PS4 Pro version doesn't look as bad as what I've seen it look on like Xbox One. But certainly understandable why people are having such issues with that, and they're griping about that, consumers, because they feel like, wow, you made this game look like this. And then when you see games that have come out recently that do look beautiful on these PlayStations, or it'd be PlayStation 4 version, PlayStation 4 Pro versions and such. Ghost of Tsushima is a big God of War. These games that look really, really good, and they're on those particular consoles, and in comparison, it seems like though Cyberpunk is an ambitious game, it does not look like anything close to what you would, if you were watching the trailers and watching how much when they were promoting it, what it looked like. It says, we are concentrating on fixing Cyberpunk on last gen. Remember, fixing it meaning it's fucking broken, and meaning that the game's already out and you've purchased it. The next set of fixes will be released in the next 7 days, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we know all of that. So we have a question. The first question was, hi there, I've got some questions. Firstly, I wonder if you could give us some more color on the impact it had on the sales. Blah, blah, blah. It says, this is Peter. I can't say any of these guys' names, by the way. He said, we definitely saw our initial sales, especially on PC. Obviously, the current situation will cause console sales to drop, which they expect that. But at this moment on Monday, it's far too early. So they're talking about, this is an investor meeting. So, of course, they're going to be talking about their bottom line and looking in at, I think, the shares for CD Projekt Red, if that's something that you pay attention to, had been dropping. But it's some of these questions that I want. Here's a good one. I have 3 questions. First of all, I've seen that you're offering refunds through Sony and Microsoft platforms, and also through retailers. Since you made that kind of comment on Twitter, have you seen a flood of refund requests that you have to deal with, or are most people blah, 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 blah? So let's see what the answer was from Marcin. Says, I'll answer the first question regarding the refunds. We are not encouraging gamers to return the game. We hope they'll give us a chance to improve it on OG consoles. One fix was released last weekend, which did not fix it. By the way, in terms of my experience, I talked about this. But there is an obvious option and the easiest way to ask the retailer for a refund. If that's not possible, we also provide help. As of today, it's too early to say, blah, blah, blah. So they're worried about their numbers, which is respectable. But there's an interesting question here. There's another one right here. A couple of questions, if I may. Firstly, your earlier comment about the board being too focused on delivering the game and ignoring problems with old gen. Should we take it that you found it was very important that the game shouldn't be delayed into the next year, or simply that you had always wanted to deliver the game and not delay it? And you and you just underestimated the extent to which the last gen version was not going to be the way that it should. Going to the answer first, your question was about the focus and the cause of ours ignoring, so to speak, the shortcomings of the current gen version. It is more about us looking, as we previously stated, at the PC and the next gen performance rather than the current gen, which was neglected essentially. We definitely did not spend, and the next gen performance, by the way, the next gen version of the game is not out. So if you are playing it on Xbox Series X or you're playing it on PlayStation 5, you're playing like a better version of the previous generation, or the current rather generation version. We definitely did not spend enough time looking at it. So they admit that they fucked up. They're simply admitting that, which is too late for that. And there's no, well, at least they're admitting, no, it's painfully obvious that they didn't, and that they've been caught. I wouldn't say that we felt any external or internal pressure to launch on the date other than the normal pressure, which is typical for any release. So that was not the cause. In terms of certification process and the third party, so we're talking about Microsoft. This is big, I believe, Microsoft and Sony. This is definitely on our side. I can only assume that they trusted that we're going to fix it upon release. So the game was not ready. It got certified for those, you know, with Sony and Microsoft. And they're assuming that, okay, well, they thought that they would fix it by way of the release. So they knowingly pushed that game out and it was not fucking ready. And again, this is what makes it worse. And they're admitting that it's on their side, that that's exactly what they did. Regarding the third question, where we want to go with PlayStation and Xbox, as stated in a statement made public today in the morning, we are planning to get the game in much better shape than it is now. Again, the game's already out. Keep in mind, they're talking about all of this in the game's already out. There was an answer to this. Hold on. Let me see if I can. Here we go. This was a good one. Talking about the refunds. He said, hello, I'll start. The question is whether Microsoft and Sony are participating financially in refunds. One has to understand Microsoft and Sony have refund policies for every product that is released digitally on their storefronts. Despite several articles I've seen that things are being set up just for us, it's actually not true. These policies are in place and have always been in place. They're not offered specifically for us. So with the refund thing, it's not, I know folks are like crediting them. I just realized my tongue is blue from this. Was it ocean water? But they shouldn't even be credited, and they're basically admitting that there's nothing special about, they don't have like any special refund deal here. Anyone who has purchased a title on PlayStation Network or Microsoft Storefront can ask for a refund, and if it's made within certain boundaries, usually related to time, usage, and so on, can ask for the refund. Our procedure here with Microsoft and Sony is not different than any other title released on their storefronts. So, I mean, you want to talk about shady. It's like they want to they come out with this statement that makes it seem like, well, we're offering refunds, like they're doing something special. And of course they were credited for it. You can go look at the comments on my videos of all of these people sitting here talking about, well, at least they're offering refund. They're admitting in this call that, dude, there's nothing special that they're doing with the refunds. Just, they've always been there, offered for any game. Any game. So what they're trying to do is salvage their supposed reputation and make it see, look at us, we're the good guys. And then when you actually look into it, minus, because they didn't, of course, mention this in the call, there's nothing special that they're doing. Wow. In terms of financial participation, when our product is refunded, the share from the store that Microsoft took is refunded. And of course, it's something that is subtracted from the share of the revenues, blah, 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 blah. This is, and of course, this is out there for everybody to read. If you want to just go to CD Projekt Red's, you can either listen to the call or if you want to view it. But long story short, they knew that the game was fucked and they shipped it anyway. Again, remember, this is what a lot of y'all, the games, and this is not me defending microtransactions. I don't have as big of a problem with it as a lot of y'all have. I think there's a case to be made against microtransactions, particularly when it's pay to win. But I don't have as much of an issue with it as just the mere existence, because I understand that definitely for games that need that long-term maintenance, specifically for online games and stuff like that, I can totally understand why they would do that. Now, some cases, no, they're just doing it just to again make more money. But I totally understand there's a case to be made. But a lot of the argument is that, well, gamers are becoming, they're making, it's funny. What did they say with Avengers? They said because of the monetization, like for example with Avengers. And the reason I keep talking about that in this video, because it's the most recent example that I can remember. If there was a more recent one, I would name that one. It's nothing special. Avengers came out and was buggy as a fucking mess when it came out. Much like this one. Now, it wasn't as game breaking for me like it was here, but it was a buggy mess. And they would say like, well, the problem with these types of games is that the gaming companies are making them and they're putting out like these half-ass products where CD Projekt Red, though no microtransactions, did the exact thing that you worry about, or you guys worry about, some of you guys, when it comes to the microtransactions and what that does to gaming in general. And that is, they put out a product knowing it was fucked and was like, well, we'll worry about it later. That's exactly what they did. They're admitting it. This isn't my opinion here. They're admitting it. CD Projekt Red is not unlike the other companies. You just had an emotional cling to the company, which is why it left you, a lot of y'all are fighting to try to make it seem like, well, at least they're not. No, they've done the same. And when you consider, as more information comes out about the state of this game, particularly on the last gen, or the current gen rather, here you are trying to make it seem like they do something different. They don't. And for the PC masturbators, right? I clocked in, by the way, almost 80 hours, so about 75 right now. I was on the PC version. I'm trying to get my refund for the PlayStation version because it's just unplayable. So I'm playing it on PC. And the PC version it has optimization problems that they've acknowledged. It doesn't matter what card that you're on. It has some, you got to obviously mess around with the settings. If you have an RTX card, there's the DLSS settings, but still what DLSS is basically, you're converting this particular lower quality. But basically, I talked about it in previous videos, that you kind of got to no matter how good your graphics card, dumb it down because it's not optimized to get like those higher frames. You're not going to be able, even according to the recommended settings that they have, or rather the recommended hardware, where they say, okay, if you have at least this running on ray tracing medium or something like that, you need this card, and you have above that card, it's still having problems. You're seeing even people with the latest graphics card, 3080s, 3070s, 3090s, and they have these cards and they're having it's optimization problems. So yeah, you can get it to get to 60, 70, 80 frames. But obviously you have to mess around with all of this stuff. And if you're running on 1080p, of course, you maybe can do that. But for those of us who play other games like, either 1440 or 4K, we don't play on PC to sit up here and be getting 50 frames on average. That's not what it is that we do. There's plenty of optimization videos that you can look at like that. But a lot of guys who are able to because the game doesn't really crash on PC. I've played 75 hours and it does not crash on PC. I have not crashed. I think it has crashed for other people. I've seen documentations of that. But for my game, it has not crashed. And I'm thankfully, but it's a buggy ass mess. You can follow my Twitter if you don't. I document all but for the last 48 hours, every time, this is bug where Delamain is on every single call. He's like glitching in and out of every single call that I have with somebody, and it's not like supposed to do that. It's just buggy, which is very interesting there. But people floating in mid, like I've had all kinds of random bugs there, so it's not without issues. It has a lot of bugs, like more bugs than I could even mention. But going back to my point, a lot of folks, because their game can at least run on PC, they're blaming the consumer, which is one of the more crackhead ass things that you could possibly do when you consider this game was specifically marketed for PlayStation 4 and Xbox. That was before, we're only talking about next gen because of the fact that it was delayed so many times. Next gen wasn't even in the picture. If you consider when it was doing this development cycle, through its marketing cycle, and when the game was initially supposed to be released, right? We weren't even talking about next gen stuff. So, and aside from all of that, if the game says PlayStation 4 on it, if it says Xbox One on it, to sit up there and crap on those consumers like, well, it runs good on PC, should have ran it on PC. You're basically letting that company make it for being a piece of shit and putting that garbage out that is virtually unplayable for many users. Some, yeah, it'll run fine for some people, but obviously it's widespread enough for this big deal to be made because it's that dog shit for a lot of people, right? And those fools, PC masturbators are sitting here. And I say this as a guy that games on PC. The PC masturbators sitting here acting like the consumer, the people that don't want to spend $2,500 on a damn unit, are sitting here in the wrong for having a game system that the game is supposed to run on, that they sell it on, but it doesn't work. You're stupid if that's the type of shit you're doing. But it does show the amount of, I don't know, the CD Projekt Red isn't even paying these guys to sit here and protect this game. They fucked up. Simple as that. And we should have enough integrity as gamers to admit that they fucked up. You can enjoy the game. There's nothing wrong with that. You can separate, let's say, the story and the content from its performance, if that's something that you choose to do. But to sit there and either ignore it or rather act as if this is tolerable is. It's a lot of foolish, CD Projekt Red fanboys that are like that. I don't have any allegiance to any of these companies. So, it is what it is. If it's buggy as hell, if it's running like dog shit, it's just that. I expected there to be bugs in a game that is ambitious, but this is like over the top buggy and over the top not optimized, and they know that. But specifically on the current gen, it is unacceptably terrible in terms of the way the game looks for a lot of people and the way the game runs for a lot of people. It's unacceptable that game was sold to them at full price for that. And more importantly, they admitted that they put that shit out, completely ignored the issues, didn't even bother to polish it, pushed it out anyway, and here we are. So there's no excuse, and more information continues to come out about CD Projekt Red and how they're handling this game. Yeah, it's getting worse. Let's just say that.